We've had the ability to pull together a framework and just do it. Learnlife has done, as an evolving process, is say, okay, this is what we actually think is at the core of good learning. This is what a teacher needs to be able to understand. And then this is how we can bring this model into any context. You need to be able to take the transformation and the change, and it needs to be actionable at the classroom level of one person if necessary, or at a whole school or system-wide level. And it goes through. The most important thing with learning, lifelong learning, is for the learner to be experiencing a world of functional relationships. So that if you go into a community and you feel at all threatened or that there's a power imbalance, that's going to limit the learning. So that at the very core of what we're doing is saying that positive relationships is critical to everything else. And then once you have that sort of in place, you start building the trust, which starts shaping the learning culture in the directions that you wish to.
The learning guide is somebody who is a passion pusher, is a coach, and sort of gives back the responsibility of the learning to the child. He's not only behavior managing the crowd in the classroom and trying to differentiate. It's not about control. It's about a sort of positive relationship, and the responsibility for the learner belongs to the learner. And it's not sort of done to the learner by the teacher. And I think that's an essential difference, where the learners don't have this attitude of I need to comply to not be thrown out of the classroom, to behave well, to get the good grades, for my parents to be happy. This still happens too much.
The learning environment we're trying to build is one where the culture of learning is so strong and so unconscious. It's there, but it actually drives the individual in their choices and in their behaviour and in their desire to sort of join in programs. The teacher's role there is to intervene as they need to. If you've got a child that's struggling with engagement, you don't just tell them to sit down, keep quiet, face the front. You've actually got to work out, well, what's blocking the engagement? What can we change as adults that might unleash the love of learning going through? And for me, that's a fundamental shift that any school can do, any teacher can do, is to then say, if there's an obvious problem in a child, don't blame the child. Have a look at the system first, because the system might have produced that problem. For me, to become the very best learning guide, we've actually got to target the issues that might prevent them from that. We've got to make sure that there's a psychologically safe environment where there's trust. We've got to make sure that people understand where they're going and why things are a little bit different, because otherwise it's very, very tempting to simply revert back to where you were going through. And they've got to understand what works. You mentioned John Hattie beforehand. His research quite clearly shows that timely feedback is one of the most powerful determinants of growth, of learning growth going through. You've got to have a system where you've got that relationship and conversations in place where you can give the immediate feedback, because that's the powerful change. This is what trust looks like. The impact of trust is that you can move from cooperation to collaboration. The impact of positive relationships is that you can actually feel safe with me to raise any difficult question, because I'm not going to then suddenly question your loyalty or anything else. I'm going to actually try and grow you in that context. As a leader, as the people who are choosing people, we actually have to have the skills of knowing how to lead a team. There are many, many school principals who have never, ever been taught that skill. There's a fundamental problem if you've got the leader of a school who doesn't know how to listen, who doesn't know how to actually create the psychological safe space, who doesn't know how to build the team.
A very clear understanding of what are the competences that are needed to to be a good learning guide. No, we do a very thorough competence evaluation. This demonstrating flexibility and agility, also very high self-awareness and recognizing your emotions, or having capacity to set and maintain healthy boundaries, things like that. What am I good at? And how could I use these skills? We look for example, in the learning team of the primary program, that the different learning guides have complementary skills. So some people have more an engineering and coding mindset. Others are very good with digital media and videos, and others are very solid and caring. Others have specialty areas in special needs or taking care of health and safety. So we try to put teams together that complement each other, and also let people shift and change and grow with their evolving learning.
Leaders have to be lifelong learners themselves. You don't come into this role to then say, I've made it, I've got my office, I've got people working for me. Learnlife is nothing of that, but there's no office. I mean, it's the first thing. It's the space is space that's shared by everyone. So I have to be able to move away from any perception I have that leadership is about hierarchy, because leadership is about leading, and it's about servant leadership. And it's, if a chair needs to be shifted, if it's a non-functioning tap, I'm not going to go and sort of say there has to be someone else that can do it. I'll try and solve it myself, because it's the very skills that I show in problem solving, in challenge-based thinking, in creative thinking, that we want the kids to learn. If I can't do it, well, then how are they going to learn?